Welcome to the Cowbell Kingdom post-game road reaction show. I am James Ham. With me, Mr. Jonathan Santiago. Say something, John.
I'm here.
All right. Sacramento Kings pull off the 102-97 victory over the New Orleans Pelicans in New Orleans. John, heck of a game for rookie Ray McCallum.
Yeah, that was a big game for Ray. I mean, he played to me. What really stood out about him is just not the skills; it's just the confidence level. He played with such purpose tonight. You saw the numbers: 22 points, 10 assists, his first career double-double. And I think that's a lot of what it is with both him and Ben. You hear a lot of the older players on this team talk about it. Once these guys have confidence in themselves, they're going to be tough to handle. And that's what you saw tonight out of Ray McCallum, was a player who, played aggressively and knew that he could have his way on the court if he just played his game.
Yeah, John, he's a big, strong, athletic player. He can guard multiple positions. He can guard the one, he can guard the two with ease. Tonight he has one turnover in 44 minutes. He's played the most minutes in a four-game stretch by any rookie in Kings history. You can't say enough about how well he played, and a lot of his points came in the fourth quarter, where he really took it upon himself to be a scoring threat early, and then he set up his teammates, and it's really what helped push his team over the top.
Yeah, looking at the fourth quarter, Ray actually finished with 10 of his 22 points, I said. Yeah, 10 of his 22 points in the fourth period there on 5 of 9 shooting. Again, just confidence, man. That's really what stood out for me. Just even watching it on the broadcast, not being there live, the guy just played so confidently, and you could tell it just oozed over on the TV screen.
All right, John. Let's look at our 3 things to watch. Does DeMarcus Cousins break his double-double-less streak? And the answer is yes. DeMarcus Cousins tied his career high with 35 points. He had a very, very good game. The Pelicans couldn't stop him at all tonight. And, 13 of 18 from the field, 14 rebounds. Very, very solid performance for DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah, the big number besides the rebounds and the points there, James, for DeMarcus are the fouls. He only had 1 foul going into the fourth quarter, whereas the previous 2 games, he was battling foul trouble throughout against the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Dallas Mavericks. So tonight, he only had, as I mentioned, 1 foul going into the fourth quarter, finishes with 3 fouls, nowhere near foul trouble. And when DeMarcus Cousins is not in foul trouble, I mean, he's pretty much a guaranteed at 22 and 11, which is what he's averaging this season, and more. And you saw it tonight. When he plays more than 35 minutes, he is a load to handle. And the Pelicans front line, Alexis Ajenka, Greg Stiemsma, and Anthony Davis, his Kentucky nemesis, they were no match for DeMarcus this evening.
Yeah, no match at all. No match at all. I mean, he was stellar. I mean, he just absolutely lit them up from whenever he was in the game, and not just baskets, but big baskets. He seemed to have moments where he really sort of captured the momentum of the game and swung it one way, swung it back to the Kings. All right, let's move on to question number 2. Can the Kings contain Tyreke Evans? John, I don't think they could. I'm not quite sure why he only ended up with 15 points. But it seems like Tyreke Evans was kind of able to do whatever it is that he wants to do. He typically kills the Kings since he's been in New Orleans. He does the same thing he did as a member of the Kings. But he only played 25.5 minutes tonight, 7 of 15 from the field. 15 points, 4 assists. He's had some really, really good games of late. As a starter, he's really blowing up for this team. What are your thoughts, John?
Yeah, it is surprising to see Tyreke only finish with 15 points. Took him 15 shots to do that. Remember the first time he played the Kings in Sacramento this season, he scored all his baskets at the rim, and we were all kind of befuddled by that, considering there were a couple guys on this team who know that all Tyreke does is attack the rim with purpose and can't really hit a jump shot. But tonight he was pretty ineffective, and really the killer for the Kings tonight, if the Pelicans won this game, is Anthony Morrow.
Yes.
Who finished with 23 points on 9 of 13 shooting, 4 of 6 from three-point distance. And granted, that's not really that surprising since we know that the Kings have had struggles all season long defending the three-point arc. So for Anthony Morrow to go off, he's a guy who's capable of doing this, getting really hot. He really led the charge for the Pelicans bench there to lead this team in scoring tonight and almost squeak out a victory for New Orleans on their home floor this evening.
Yeah, John, him and Jeff Withey. I thought Jeff Withey had a very, very strong game. He ran a plus-minus of plus 19, and he had 8 points and 7 rebounds, but he also had 5 blocks. I thought he was one of the few guys that actually really challenged Marcus in the post. Really a solid performance for Withey off the bench as well. So let's move on to the last thing. Can the Kings turn the ball over less than 12 times? The answer is no. Of course they can't. They turned the ball over 18 times. Well, actually 19 times total turnovers, leading to 30 points for New Orleans. And that is including just the solo 1 turnover from Ray McCallum in 44 minutes. So the other 4 positions and whoever rotated into those 4 positions turned the ball over 18 total times. Not a great turnover night for the Kings, especially when you consider that they only had 20 assists. 20 to 18 is not what you're looking for.
Yeah, it's an issue that's been a problem for the Kings all season long. You look at Ben McLemore, he was the biggest culprit in that department, finishing with 4 turnovers. But as you mentioned, James, the 1 turnover by Ray McCallum, considering the game that he had, is really impressive. To finish with 22 points and 10 assists, his first career double-double, and only turn the ball over 1 time in 44 minutes of play. You know, they got the win, but at the same time, you look at what Ray did handling the basketball. I think that kind of, you know, in a certain way, it outweighs a little bit all the turnovers that the Kings committed tonight. But it's an issue that really needs to be addressed, and I don't know if it's something that will ease its way up anytime soon as the Kings wrap up this season.
Yeah, John, you mentioned Ben McLemore there, and I think we've been hard on Ben McLemore throughout this season just because he's been given sort of carte blanche to do whatever he wants on the court, and he just hasn't been aggressive at times. He hasn't been good at times. He hasn't stayed with his man. He's let his men light him up night in, night out. And I think what you're seeing out of Ray McCallum in these 4 games where he started with Isaiah Thomas down is what you were hoping to see from Ben McLemore at some point this season, like an epiphany, a 4-game stretch, a 5-game stretch, an 8-game stretch, where all of a sudden he's really, really good and you see the light bulb come on. I mean, Ray McCallum has gone from a guy who gets into Reno, a guy who sits on the bench inactive most of the season, to a guy who clearly at this point is part of the future of the Sacramento Kings. I don't know that the Kings plan on making him the starting point guard next season, but he certainly has made a major impression where he is a rotational player going forward. And that's what you're waiting for from McLemore this entire season. I still think we're seeing sort of gifted minutes to McLemore a lot of the time, and the Kings just don't have anyone else. So, yeah, such an impressive performance by him. But all weekend long, it's been an impressive performance. I mean, this is a tough 3-game road trip, and he's been really good.
Yeah, I'll say this too about Ben. I mean, granted, he hasn't had like a great stretch like Ray has, but also at the same time, remember Ray's first game, Ray's first game starting for Isaiah Thomas didn't start off very great as well. He missed his first 8 shots and looked horrible going into that 4th quarter. And his shot's been spotty throughout much of this 4-game stint of his with Isaiah Thomas out, but he did shoot the ball a lot better tonight. But as far as Ben McLemore is concerned, I think that he's been playing pretty solid basketball as of late, especially this month. You look at his final stat line, he finishes with 14 points on 5 of 11 shooting, plus 5 rebounds for the Sacramento Kings. The 4 turnovers are a killer, but he gets to the free throw line a couple times, which has been an issue. I mean, we look back a couple games ago, Ben hadn't been to the free throw line since March 12th at one point and was finally able to break that streak recently. So he may not have had like an epiphany type game like Ray has had tonight recently, but he's been much more solid and I think a little bit more consistent in terms of playing aggressively here to wrap up the season for the Kings.
All right, John. Let's talk about our player of the game. Ray McCallum seriously made a serious run for the player of the game. You still have to look at DeMarcus Cousins and just a dominant 35 point, 14 rebound, 3 assists, 2 block performance. I don't know, who do you got, John? If I'm gauging, I think Ray McCallum played great, but I think DeMarcus Cousins was just incredibly dominant.
Yeah, DeMarcus was really good, and I did the ESPN Daily Dime tonight for this game, and I gave DeMarcus the MVP honors. But on our show, I'm gonna give Ray McCallum the honors. It was pretty close. I made Ray my X factor on the recap there, and I'm gonna give Ray the nod here because I mean, as we pointed out, 10 of his 22 points in the deciding fourth quarter. That fourth quarter was still pretty close. The New Orleans Pelicans did make it interesting with some of their shots and their offense in that period, and to finish with a double-double, 22 points, 10 assists, and to not have a backup. This guy doesn't have a backup point guard, and he did not get himself into horrible foul trouble. And that's another stat that we have to look at too.
That is pretty amazing.
Yeah, over these last few games, that he's been able to stay out of foul trouble and stay in the game and play over 40 minutes a night with Isaiah Thomas out. So in addition to the minimal turnovers that Ray had tonight, staying out of foul trouble, playing good defense, that's another thing that to me earns Ray McCallum the Player of the Night award from my end.
Yeah, John, I think, the one thing also we'll point out, Jared Cunningham was signed earlier in the day to a 10-day contract. He's played so sparingly in his time in the NBA. He's just bounced from one team to the next, which is really unfortunate for him because he is a former first-round pick who just looks like he never, ever got a shot with anybody. But he ends up playing 4 minutes and 13 seconds just to give Ray McCallum a blow, give him a breather. Really kind of surprising that the Kings have been able to sustain and be in these games with Ray McCallum literally playing solo at the point guard position. So I think it's, a lot of people are talking about, oh my gosh, Ray McCallum, he might be the new King starting point guard. I think people should be really excited that there's a possibility that Isaiah Thomas and Ray McCallum are both on this team going forward because they really make a nice tandem. And I think that's something we always talk about. The Kings were looking for something different. Ray McCallum brings something different, and I really, really like what he brings. He, even his game, there are remnants. You can see a little bit of like a young Andre Miller, the methodical way that he moves the ball, the lack of turnovers, the high assist rate, really just how he moves in and out, and you're always waiting to see where he's going to go. So yeah, I think it's another quality second-round draft pick by the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, it's funny again. It's always this. It's the world of sports, right? What have you done for me lately? Ray McCallum with 22 points and kind of this. Now everyone is starting to clamor about him possibly becoming the starter and Isaiah being the Bobby Jackson type. I mean, come on, guys. Isaiah Thomas has done it. 20 points, 6 assists all season long for 70 straight games. You can't start talking about Ray McCallum as a starter for this team. We got to see him do this consistently for more than just a 4-game stretch, and also in different circumstances when he's not the only point guard. How is he going? This is my major question going forward. If Isaiah Thomas does come back Wednesday and Ray McCallum returns to the bench, how can Ray keep his play up off the bench and playing in limited minutes once again? I mean, because you're not always going to be able to play 40+ minutes a night. And when you know that you're going to play big minutes, you're obviously not pressing as much, and you don't have to feel like a lot of pressure in terms of producing and playing great. But when you know that you're just going to play 10 to 15 minutes a night, sometimes it forces you to press and to do things that may not be conducive to team success. So Ray tonight, again, playing great in big minutes, but let's see how he does, playing. I think he's earned the right to play, 20, 25 minutes a night. Give Isaiah Thomas some rest because he's been playing major minutes all season long. But let's see how he does in those type of minutes and in that type of role before we start clamoring about this guy a rookie point guard nonetheless, taking over the starting point guard reins for the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, John, and before we go to the one other thing I'd like to point out is that Reggie Evans was completely jobbed in this game by Bennett Salvatore. Thrown out of the game for an elbow. That was literally the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Reggie Evans had two hands on the ball. He went up for a shot, and he jumped into Anthony Davis. And, I mean, sure, Anthony Davis took an elbow to the face, but he was on his way up with the ball. I mean, he just, what was he supposed to do in that situation? And then they reviewed it, and they made it a flagrant 2 and called him for an intentional elbow and threw him out of the game. That was the most ridiculous call that I've seen in a long time, throwing a player out of a game. And honestly, I think the officials in this game, they owe an apology to the Sacramento Kings and to Reggie Evans, because I saw it again and again. I just don't understand that call at all.
Yeah, Reggie Evans walked off the court like a professional wrestling heel, absorbing the boos from the crowd. Like, come and boo me. I will take your boos, rain them down on me. But unfortunately, Reggie, he had that one great sequence in the game where he dove out of bounds, chasing a rebound, threw it back inbounds to Ray McCallum, who then tossed it up for an alley-oop jam for Ben McLemore. That was just a pretty sequence, and you saw that multiple times. If you get
like dun-na-na.
Yeah. That should probably make SportsCenter.
SportsCenter, definitely. All right, John. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Cowbell Kingdom Road Recap Show. Again, the Sacramento Kings with the 102-97 victory over the New Orleans Pelicans. We will be back, but not for a little while. We got a couple of home games. And we will have our standard home recap come Wednesday when the Sacramento Kings return to Sleep Train Arena for, is it Bollywood night? I think it is Bollywood night.
Bollywood night. Next Sunday is Selfie Sunday, though, James. Are you ready for that? Selfie Sunday.
Yeah, I don't do selfies, and I'm not going to be doing.
Are you going to do this? You know what they call this? It's called Vivecking. It's Vivecking. Not a shaka, it's Vivecking in Sacramento.
Interesting. We've completely redefined what that means. I wonder what surfers all over California are thinking.
Frustration, probably. I'm not sure.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Cowbell Kingdom Road Recap Show. For Jonathan Santiago, I am James Ham. Have a good night.